Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about Dying Light 2. These are going to be my first impressions of the game because I had a chance to play through the game a couple of days before the release, and huge thanks to Techland for actually sending over a review copy. Now keep in mind, I'm not obligated in any way, shape or form to, say good things about the game and avoid bad things about the game. So I'm going to give you my honest opinion, what I think about it. And there are a lot of things that I like about this game. There are some small things which I am worried about, and hopefully those things don't continue happening, but at the same time there is a lot of good in this game which I want to talk about, especially because I'm someone who maxed out Dying Light 1, both the the OG game and also the following. I really like it, and I was initially worried if Dying Light 2 is going to satisfy the people who play Dying Light 1, and if Dying Light 2 is going to be a worthy successor to Dying Light 1. And after playing it, even with my reservations prior to release, I can tell you that yes, Dying Light 2 is definitely the sequel that people deserve for Dying Light 1, and this is how you do a proper sequel of the game. You take everything from Dying Light 1 which was good and you put it in this game, and you remove everything that people didn't like from Dying Light 1 and you never put it in this game, ultimately enhancing this experience, making it bigger, fixing all of the problems that the, as I said, first game had, and basically pushing everything to a whole different level, making it a proper sequel. And this is Dying Light 2, which I want to talk about, so let's go into it. So first things first, also keep in mind I won't be going into any spoilers whatsoever here. I only will be talking about some of the things that there could be some small spoilers, but those things are basically at the beginning of the game and they're heavily tied into the game itself, but I won't talk about specifics. So first off, when it comes to the city, obviously you're moving into a different city, you're going away from Haran. Now also at the same time, if you look at it, this city is actually set in Europe, which also means the vegetation, the overall environment is going to be different. Now the layout and the planning of the city is different from Dying Light 1 because here the map is much more packed with stuff, a lot more than you had to do in Dying Light 1. So this means that single block here in this game can be filled with either different zombies, different monsters, and different stuff to loot and pick up. On the map you're gonna be having different areas which are either going to be controlled by a certain faction or are going to be a free, basically like a free territory that you can kind of occupy for yourself if you actually unlock the checkpoint. But keep in mind, not every checkpoint is going to unlock that. You have a different checkpoints from the big ones where you basically like liberate a village in The Witcher 3 and all of the villagers return there and basically revitalize the area. And on the other side you're going to have safe houses which are going to be smaller, more compact, but are going to be very important for you as a character during your night missions. I'm going to explain why. And this ties in perfectly with the graphics, because graphics in this game are simply amazing. Like seriously, like it's just beautiful when you look at it. Every single part of the city, going to just small details from inside of the building to, like, let's say small plates, forks, whatever. It's all done in high detail and it's extremely immersive, especially because they thought a lot about how does the city become after a few years of apocalypse. And especially it's nice because you have various vegetation growing around the city, and actually this vegetation, you can see it going through the buildings, and on top of the buildings then you have like different areas which are going to, for example, give you honey and different like plants you can pick up to later craft. All of those things are going to be, for example, on top of the buildings where people kind of use this vegetation to grow certain things. And on that side it's really immersive because it tells you like how the world is going to kind of adapt, a few years, or well, a long time after the initial outbreak had happened. But I don't want to go into spoilers or anything like that. So when it comes to the story itself, your character is called Aiden, and that's pretty much it. The character from Dying Light 1 is not going to be there, so this is actually continuing a new story. There are going to be some people who return from Dying Light 1, but again, I'm going to leave you, to explore that and to find out for yourself. Now when it comes to combat, when it comes to overall zombies, it's much more advanced than it ever was in Dying Light 1, because I especially like the animations which were included for zombies and people alike. Zombies are now a lot more aggressive when they attack, and their animations are a lot more, how would I say, they're scarier than they ever were in Dying Light 1, because especially here you're going to have zombies which are going to be tripping above each other to get to you. You can basically use your weapon to cut the legs of a zombie, and this zombie is then going to, you know, stroll around and go after you. Or basically if you cut off all of their limbs, they're gonna try to kinda do this towards you just to bite you. So in that sense, like, the combat itself against those zombies is incredibly immersive, and I cannot believe how well it was actually done for that. So yes, the combat with different weapons, and obviously now you have a much bigger selection of weapons. You again can mod your weapons. You can mod the tip of the weapon, or you can mod the middle part of the weapon and even put a trinket. All of those things are going to make your melee weapon a lot stronger. Of course, you have ranged weapons like, you know, bow and arrow, pistols, rifles, but all of those things are going to happen to you much later in the game. But for the beginning, obviously you have a huge, like, well, you have a selection of melee weapons you can upgrade or just buy and later on craft new things. But the weapons themselves feel a lot more heavier and more sturdier to fight against those enemies, because now once you hit an enemy, there is a clear oomph sound. If you know, it's really satisfying from that perspective. And now those animations can kind of screw you up, because if you swing your weapon in a certain direction, a zombie can come from this side and pretty much, you know, nab you. So you have to really pay attention to how you fight in this game, because it's a lot more it's a lot better than Dying Light 1, but at the same time it can be a lot more challenging than Dying Light 1, just because it won't be as easy for you to stagger those enemies as you would in Dying Light 1. So obviously some of the combat decisions and ideas have to change when you're playing this game, especially when it comes to parkour, because stamina in this game is extremely important, much more important than it ever was in Dying Light 1. So as you're climbing the building, if your stamina goes down, and it's gonna go down fast, you're just going to fall off of the building. So it's important for you to kinda really pay attention to where you're going and how you're doing this parkour, because if you start climbing something and you don't have enough energy, you're just going to fall down, most likely to your death, or either on top of a lot of zombies. So at the same time, it can be sometimes maybe a little bit annoying when it comes to stamina, because stamina can sometimes deplete just too fast, just too fast, especially if you're climbing and you jump, like the bar just goes like this and you fall over. So sometimes that was a little bit annoying, but there is also a logical reason why this is happening, which I don't want to go into. But yeah, it's kind of all explained. But yes, you are really weak at the beginning of the game, like much weaker than Crane ever was in Dying Light 1. So it can be challenging for people, but at the same time it's kind of fun, I'm not going to lie, especially because now I have to pay more attention to where I climb and how do I navigate my way around the city. When it comes to the story, I think it's pretty alright, you know, so far. Again, I still haven't reached the end, that's why this is not a review, but so far, you know, the story is nice. You have various decisions you can make throughout your playthrough, which is going to offer you a different outcome, so you have to really pay attention how you work with certain people and how is this going to either help you or not help you later on in the game, much more than it was again in Dying Light when it comes to those decisions. Now also when it comes to like the presentation of the main story, I think there is a lot of missions which are done really well, and I actually think that combined with the music and OST they use actually in the game, it paints a really nice picture overall. And there were some missions where my heart was pounding a lot, because just that music and the scenery around you, everything is breaking, problems are arising, you're trying to run and also at the same time avoid zombies. This was done really well. Now keep in mind, some of the characters I found a little bit forgettable, and that's why there is this whole narrative that the story itself is bad, which in my personal opinion, look, it's a personal opinion after all, so you do whatever you want with it. I actually enjoyed the story, it wasn't that bad. You know, especially when it comes to Aiden and his backstory, which I don't want to go into, it was delivered nicely. Now, of course, that you have some side activities which are not going to offer anything special, just basically save me, thank you, and that's about it. But to be honest, that's something we had in Dying Light, and that's something I was definitely expecting. So yeah, the story, as I said, is alright. It's not some Oscar-worthy masterpiece, but at the same time, in my personal opinion, it is not forgettable. Now, nights are also different now because some things happen and basically you become infected. So means that you cannot walk around too much in darkness. So you always kind of have to have some light. Now, for some people, this can be a little bit annoying, but this means that when the night comes, you have, like at the beginning, a timer of like 5-6 minutes to do whatever you want, and then your immunity goes down and then problems arise. The way to fix that is to find a source of light, usually the UV light you can find across the map. Now keep in mind, you know, going from Dying Light 1, you'll have different UV light points throughout the map itself without generally having a safe house. Those UV light checkpoints are going to be basically for you to replenish your immunity resistance so you don't become more infected. And again, this also revolves around you exploring dark places and going into dark places, because this timer starts running out, and if you're stuck in a very deep hole and you cannot get out to see the sun, you have to use certain boosters for immunity, or for example UV mushrooms, which are going to replenish you some of that time. But it can be incredibly, either for some people annoying maybe, or it can be like heart pounding when you're trying to loot some things, when you're fighting enemies in the darkness and you have to find a source of light, otherwise you're going to turn as well. So it's kind of fun from that perspective, but it can be a little bit annoying sometimes, just a little bit, at least at the beginning, where you don't have enough like protection, or well, you don't have enough time to spend in the darkness. But the darkness itself is difficult. Like I've had some people tell me that the night is not going to be as difficult as in Dying Light 1. That's a lie. You know, nights in Dying Light 2 can be incredibly difficult, with various monsters running over you, with just different volatiles, different stalkers, different howlers, whatever you want to call them, which are going to be hunting you across the map. And this time, when there is an actual pursuit during the night, it's a lot more difficult than it ever was. Like, for a star pursuit in Dying Light 1, this is easy mode compared to the pursuit in Dying Light 2, especially because now zombies are a lot more smarter and faster how they get to you. There was a problem in the previous game where, you know, zombies, you can kind of play around with them, they were not that smart, but here, oh boy, they know how to climb and they know how to find the best route to climb to get to you really fast. I was actually in a situation sometimes where I tried to run from a volatile and I actually go up the building and there's a volatile waiting for me already on the building because he was a lot faster to climb than me. Then also comes to like AI, or well, human enemies, and it actually feels great how they've done enemies in this game, like human enemies, because their interaction and their way of movement and how they attack you is actually like really realistic. Sometimes they're going to like kind of like, you know, like they're gonna test you, that you don't know if they're going to attack or not. They're gonna be running around you, they're gonna be throwing kunai knives on you, they're going to do whatever, but they're going to be extremely difficult to fight because they're not so, like, they're always going to do something random when they attack, and if you get close to them, they're going to push you away, they're going to stagger you on that part, or if you don't parry or block in a certain, like, in a right way, they're going to do heavy damage to you. So fighting human enemies in this game, as it was in Dying Light 1, can be extremely challenging. Like, so far at the beginning, I haven't seen many human enemies with a pistol or any rifle whatsoever, so they were fighting against me with melee weapons, which was okay. But at the same time, once you go across one human bandit or whatever your faction you're fighting against, they're going to call reinforcements, so they have a guy who's going to like ring a certain bell, like dun, 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 and then basically more enemies are going to come. It can be incredibly challenging because one time I started fighting 3 human enemies and I ended up fighting 20 human enemies. So if they call for reinforcements, run. In most cases you're going to be done for. But at the same time, if you upgrade your weapons with certain modifications, oh man, you are gonna be golden. You're gonna be golden. Same for parkour. As I said, parkour is incredibly fun. It feels a lot more floaty than Dying Light 1, and maybe for some people it's not going to be as realistic in some areas as Dying Light 1, especially when it comes to how you jump and how this is done, because sometimes when you jump too high in this game, it feels like your character is kind of just floating rather than jumping, or you don't have that oomph, you know, feeling where someone is going to jump. So like higher jumps in this game can feel a little bit flimsy, but at the same time the speed and the recovery around parkour and how you move and navigate certain obstacles and how your player recovers after that and how you interact with, for example, ledges from like a big distance, or how you do a barrel roll when you fall down so you don't take huge damage. It's incredible. It truly is. Like, this parkour is just incredible, and I like it. Also on the map you have various zones where you are going to find certain stuff. For example, you're going to have military checkpoints which are going to be surrounded by zombies, but there, if you actually lockpick this, you're going to get a lot of good stuff. So always in this game, if you want better gear, if you want better crafting resources, you have to take huge risk. And that's something I really like about this, especially, as I said, going into buildings, having tight corners and fighting against enemies, sneaking around those enemies, and sneaking is done really well. I wasn't like, every time like I break, my sneaking is when I make a mistake. It wasn't like that a zombie saw me from a mile away. So on that sense, I believe they've done the actual sneaking really well. Not so much against human enemies. I think they can see you a little bit too fast for my taste, but overall, you know, it's alright. Now I'm gonna talk about some of the problems the game has. So besides everything that I talked about, I had a problem where I don't know what was happening, but keep in mind I was playing the previous version, so not the release version of Dying Light 2, I'm playing the version before that, and obviously this version is not going to be as polished as the release version of the game. So what was happening to me is that I either had memory leaks, or the game was just having issues. The frame rate drops to like 5 frames, and that's like that across the board. So I'm running this on 3070 Ti and on i7-7700, so I know that my CPU is bottlenecking my GPU a little bit, and I know that my CPU is not that strong, but at the same time it wasn't really the frame rate as much as it was, the game starts off great, the frame rate is amazing. Like, it can definitely be better if you ask me. Like, for the system that I'm playing on, I do believe that the frame rate can be a little bit better. I'm going to show you right now. You can actually see like the frame rate itself. You have the full benchmark over here, so judge for yourself. And this is the frame rate and GPU CPU utilization which was happening. Sometimes I do believe that GPU and CPU were not utilized to the fullest extent, and this was obviously just making all kinds of trouble, and the game was just starting to stutter heavily. Now, when that happens, I just reload the game, I enter it again, and everything is flowing as it should. So I don't know what was the case and the problem with it. It can either be memory leaks or some problems, but again, keep in mind, I am playing the older version of the game, and I will report if those things were fixed in the release version of Dying Light 2. And besides that, I had crashed 3 times, and sometimes actually, like the 2 times I crashed, it was during some really important moments. Like, I was just about to finish a cutscene of a mission, boom, the game crashed. So that happened 3 times. I had a few times where, as I said, like, just frame rate goes down and I don't know what to do with it. I just have to reload the game again and then it fixes itself. So it could be a memory leak. Let's see, besides that, there were a few moments where I couldn't loot a person because they kind of got stuck between certain objects, but that wasn't really a huge problem. Honestly, besides that, I had no bugs and glitches besides it. Like, the missions were flowing well, the fight against the zombies was done well, everything else was like nice. I mean, I didn't have people T-posing, I didn't have everything falling down in front of me, but keep in mind, I am just playing on a PC version. I don't know how PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and Xbox One are going to work. I have no clue. I have no idea. I can just vouch for the PC version. So yeah, those are the problems. Just that. Everything else, like, seriously, personally, I had 0 problems with it. Like, the game flows, the game runs well, it's fun. But yeah, just that, like, frame rate, just, there's some dips and I don't know, I hope they actually optimize that, and besides that, yeah, it was good. So do I recommend this game? Honestly, I do. I do recommend this. It's been a while since I recommended the game, and no, this has nothing to do with me getting a key. If I haven't got the key and I played the game, I would still have the same opinion about this game. But again, I just hope that the problems with you know, this frame rate drops and whatever is happening on that sense. Now keep in mind, the day 1 patch and the upgrade, or well, update for your GPU can probably solve that, but we're going to see that. But besides that, everything else, top top of the line. This game is amazing. Finally, a game which released with little problems and it works. I cannot believe it. So thank you for watching. I'll have more videos of Dying Light 2 come out and it's gonna be fun. We're gonna be playing it. If you want to see a stream that I did yesterday, you can check that out, where we were just going into free roam, you know, trying out different things. Of course, I didn't want to go into any spoilers there as well. So also don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and also don't forget to join our growing community on Twitter and Discord. This is LKM signing out. Huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.